I have compulsive PowerPoint slide making disorder. It's like I make too many PowerPoint slides, hopefully we'll just get through a few of them here today, just to have a chance to talk together. So my topic was given to me by Eddie, my sister-in-law, and the idea was widening the frame and how can we kind of talk from a wider perspective. And so this is kind of what we're going to do today. We're going to start off with kind of like really looking real small at the neuron. Then we're going to talk a little bit more about from what's the person, then the relationship, then the community, and then the environment. So we can do all that in 1 hour with lots of PowerPoint slides, hopefully. All right, but before we do all that, what I'd like to do is, if I can ask you guys to do, can you read? If you could do a little activity with me, if we could do an activity together. Okay, so I'm going to say like a little characteristic. So say if I said, oh, you're left-handed. If you were left-handed, then whatever I say, if you would stand up, okay? Not right, you don't have to do that. But then everybody who's left still sitting, if you could say a compliment about the people who are standing. So, you know, you can make a compliment about the people that are standing who have been left-handed in that scenario. Does that make sense? So if you can come up with a good compliment, okay. So the first thing is going to be, you're a social worker. Anybody that's a social worker? Look at a room full. What good compliment, those of us that are sitting, what good compliment can we give for those that are social workers that are standing?
Making a difference in the community.
Making a difference in the community. What else? Helping people, helpers.
Good leaders.
Good leaders.
Willing to work for a little money.
Willing to work for a little bit of money. Yeah. Okay, all right. How about this? Okay, great. Thanks, social workers. Great job. I'm one of you. Love you. Then, all right. So how about if you are a survivor or thriver, survivor/thriver from a cult? Would you mind standing? What can we say about these folks? Strong. Hero. Brave. Resilient. Courageous. Superhero. The reason we're here. So thank you guys. Great. How about if you're an ICSA member? Is anybody an ICSA member? Oh, we got a good number here. What about these folks? What compliment can we give for these folks? Smart, did you say? Informed. Can't smart. Informed. Good work. Groundbreakers. Leaders, engaged. Great. Okay, great. Thanks, you guys.
Willing to work for no money.
Willing to lose money at this. What about if you're just here today because you are interested in the concept of cults? Maybe you're just interested in the topic, just something that's interesting to you. What can we say to these folks? Thank you for coming. Curious. Open-minded. Need you. Great. Learners. Great. Okay, thank you. All right, how about this? All of us who are here together today to learn more about cults and to share our ideas and to gain more knowledge and to earn CEUs. How about all of us who are in all those categories? Okay, so that should be all of us, probably. Okay, wait, can I ask you this? Wait, stay standing. What are we all doing together right now? What are we doing together? We're standing together. We're standing together. So that's really what this whole thing is all about, is to realize that no matter what, whether we were in a cult, whether we help people who have been in coercive control relationships, whatever that is, that we all stand united together on this whole concept. And so I think it's so great that so many people have come together today to be able to realize that we stand together. And I think that's the problem with the cult thing, is it divides. Some people are better. We're better than others. They're wrong, I'm right. That's divisive. But if we realize that in humanity, in our relationships together, the dignity that we share as humans, then we're all standing together. And that's what we got to stand with each other. And that's what's going to make our community stronger so we can be against this kind of stuff. So thanks a lot. Thanks. You can see. All right, great. So, all right. That's a little get started thing. Okay, let me ask you this too. Okay, see this? Do you see these 9 dots? If this was written down on a piece of paper, like if this was on a piece of paper in front of you, and you had to use your pencil and use 4 lines to connect all 9 of those dots, without picking your your pencil off of the paper, and the lines had to be straight, do you think you could connect all of those dots? Think about it for a second. Could you do it? No. I don't know. You can't get 4 lines and can't pick up your pencil off the paper. Anybody got a solution? You think? Outside the box, yeah. You gotta go outside the box. And so that's what this whole conversation, see how like the solution is that you've got to like step outside the box. And so that's what it takes, I think. When we look at the difficult, really uphill battle that many of the people that we work with are dealing with, and the struggles that people come with, we have to go outside of the box. We can't just stay in as business as usual. Like, I heard someone mention earlier talking about the deprogramming concept. That really, that's just, if we'd stayed there, would we be here today? We've got to be able to move on. What can we do? What can we do to get outside the box so we can do more to try to help others? I think that's got to be our goal. So let's go ahead and start with the neuron at a very, very small level, the cellular level, in our first frame here. Okay, so maybe thinking, gee, I didn't want to come here to lecture about brain science or neuroscience or whatever, and I have to say I'm a little bit sheepish to give this part of the talk in front of my colleagues who are also other professors at the College of Social Work, because they're probably way smarter than me or know more about it than I do. But I just want to kind of point this out real quickly, that I think sometimes when I think about this whole concept of being ensnared into a coercive relationship or led down that path, really, it does go down to that neuron cell level or the brain level. So here, if you see, I like this little red dot, it's kind of neat. So if you think about this, here's these different parts of the brain. I won't go into like hypothalamus, hippocampus, all those words, but let's just use the different colors here. Okay, so if you think about it, we, in our evolutionary process, as the human being has evolved over the centuries, this was the earliest part of the brain that was evolved. This yellow part down here, this brown and yellow part. That part is responsible for, telling us that we're hungry, telling us that we're tired, we have to go to sleep. Just kind of basic maintenance things. Make sure our heart beats, make sure that our lungs breathe in and out, stuff like that. But it also is responsible, a little bit more here in this area, the limbic system. That area there is to keep us safe. So if our ancestors were out in like a jungle or out in the out in cave doing cave people things, whatever they did, and they're out there, and they'd see a tiger or something coming or a saber-tooth flying, whatever they would see, and then this would begin this process of sending a message of neurochemicals through your body that would give you the what's that called, the fight or flight. Yeah. So the fight or flight. So that's that response of fight or flight. So the body's kicking in this thing. It makes your heart beat faster. It kind of makes your hair stand up on your skin. It makes your eyes dilate a little bit. Makes you more alert and gives you some energy so that you can run to be safe. And then once you were away from the tiger or the saber-tooth thing or whatever, then it would all resolve. It was meant to be one jolt through your body, and it would give you the energy to get away from the tiger. Get away, you'd be safe. Okay, now my body goes back to resolve, back to down to where it was. So what happens here is then, as time is developed, then this stuff is keeping us alive at baseline. This stuff is keeping us alive in response to danger. And then as time has gone on, then this red part up here, that's all the part of the brain that's about like kind of logic and thinking things through and doing some critical thinking and be able to kind of verbalize things and look at two sides of different things and kind of convert stuff. That's the verbal, critical thinking type of aspect of the brain. That's really new to the human being. So that's a new part. So that's all just made life a little bit more interesting, I think. So if we think about what's happening for the person who's been in a cult or has been experiencing in some sort of a coercive control relationship, is that a lot of their life is spent in this area of the fight or flight thing. That the brain is kicking in this deal, saying that I have to walk on eggshells. That's what you use, Sandra. You use the term walking on eggshells in the home because you are just nervous all the time. When were you going to come and have to be kicked again? Or when was your parent going to be kicked out of the cult or whatever? It was a constant sense of threat or anxiety. So that part of the brain is alerting all the time and always active.
So if your brain is always active right here, this part of the front brain, you don't have to, your brain's going to shut off up here. You're not going to be doing critical thinking, gee, am I going to get hit today or not? What will I do about it? What's that going to be? You're not doing that. You're just trying to do survival. You're trying to get out. So that's what's happening to your body. Does that make sense? So it's almost like that this part of the brain down here is so enacted or overacted. If you're in a hostile, kind of violent or unsettling sort of a situation. You remember how I said a second ago that when our ancestors, there was a jolt of adrenaline or whatever that would shoot, the person would run away from the tiger and then it would resolve? That's what's supposed to happen. But if you're in some sort of a coercive relationship or an environment that's unsafe or that's where you're walking on eggshells all the time, then this is constantly going. So that's bad for your body. Cortisol is a chemical that's running through our bodies that is only supposed to be there for just a couple seconds, not there for days, months, weeks on time. It wears down your body and wears down other aspects of our body. So this is a dangerous thing that's being released from this part of the brain, and so it's kind of tough on us. So all this is happening and really causing the brain to be a little bit disintegrated. So when people say, well, why would somebody agree to be in a cult like that? Well, it's because their brain energy is all here. Survival, survival. None of it is in critical thinking. Gee, this isn't a good idea. It's natural. No wonder. It's only natural. I think sometimes people will end up blaming themselves when you say, like, look back over the past 20 years, why am I in this situation? Well, it's because your brain was doing everything it could to protect itself. Just go along and survive. Just go along and survive. That's kind of what the brain was telling itself. So one other thing that happens here is that there's another thing that you can't see, and that's this thing in the middle called this corpus callosum, and the thing that helps the brain communicate from one side to the other. If your brain is constantly under stress like that, the corpus callosum kind of breaks down a little bit and prevents communication from happening from one part of the brain to the other. So the brain becomes, in a way, disintegrated. So if the brain isn't communicating appropriately to itself, one side to the other, one aspect to the other, then no wonder you're sort of separated from yourself in a way. So no wonder you're agreeing to do things that you would never have done. No wonder you're doing things that you never thought you would ever do. Whatever is going on in your life. It all makes sense now if we understand what's happening to the developing brain as kind of time goes on. So I feel like that's kind of a big deal to understand. Does that sort of make sense? If I can also kind of point out also to what you were saying too, that, oops, I pushed the wrong button. Wait, sorry about that. I like this red button. So if we think about this, when we sit down in therapy, and I know you guys probably had to deal with this in the therapeutic settings, to think that when we sit down in therapy, what's the part of the brain that we're doing? If I'm going to sit down and I'm going to talk to you in a therapeutic setting, what's the part of the brain that we most engage in therapy? Is that, yeah, the red part. Well, you know, that's why it's good. We have to talk some of this stuff through. You have to. But to dance, to do yoga, to do exercises, to go out and walk, to get some fresh air, to do something with our body, to create something on a paintboard, to sing a song. It's using other parts of the brain to maybe help create a greater integration again during that healing process. All that stuff is so important. And I think, did you mention the word The Body Keeps the Score? The book, The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. So that book, I feel like if I could tell anyone to read that, I think it's just a key element to this whole story. So it's a great book. I can see some people nodding. Some of you guys know that book. So, okay, well, that's enough about the brain. All right, so we can't talk. We have to talk a little bit about what's happening within the bodily system. So here's a fancy word, homeostasis. So this is when kind of like a seesaw. Like our body is always in this constant attempt to remain like even like this, you know, kind of like a seesaw would be. And so the neurons are all throughout our body and our brain are trying to keep our body at a level thing, at a homeostasis. Now sometimes we get out of whack, like if somebody's going to kick us, or somebody's going to threaten our family, or threaten our livelihood, or tell us we're not going to get any food when we know we need it, then that's going to throw our homeostasis off. Well, that's what happens when that brain part sends through the body all these different chemicals. It's called allostasis. So if your body gets out of homeostatic level, then the body shoots these chemicals to put it back in allostasis. But if that happens over and over and over, your body is becoming in an allostatic load. So if you ever get overworked at your job or something, you just go tell your boss, hey, my allostatic load is really high today. Like, I just don't know if I can handle it. So you can pay people like that and see what they say. So, but that's the deal. That when your allostatic load is so high, then your body just becomes worn out from dealing with the stress. And again, a lot of times become a little bit more maybe, I don't want to say fully apathetic, but like just like, okay, whatever you say. You're more likely to just kind of give in to something. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay, here's another neuron thing here. Did you know that when we're born, we have very few neuronal connections? So this is like a little slide of a window of what it's like in the little neuronal connections for a little at birth. So not too many. Well, look at this at 6 years old. Woo, that's a bunch. Because remember when we were little kids, nothing was safe. We were always wanting to try everything. So all these new neuronal connections are being made throughout our childhood. I'm trying this, I'm running there, I'm jumping here, I'm jumping there, I'm talking to that person, I don't know any boundaries, I'm doing everything because I'm a kid. I want to get all the experiences that I possibly can get. And so you're developing all these connections. So all these connections, look how thick that is, with just thick with branches, neuronal branches, and connections that have been made throughout the body during that time. But, you know, we've sort of run out of this is a 14-year-old, I wish I had a little bit older, but see how much thinner the number of neurons connected are? That's called a pruning process. So during that pruning process, some of the neuronal connections become stronger, like these are a little bit stronger, but fewer. So there's not as many neuronal connections, but the ones that we have are stronger. That comes from habituation and repetitive behavior. So think about if you were born into a cult, that your neuronal connection process is going to be this. So one issue related to this may be related to the deal here, that there's very few neuronal connections. So if my life is if life inside the cult or life inside the coercive relationship was very predictable and very controlled and very systematic, then you weren't developing very many neuronal connections, so there was fewer developed in the first place, which is not very healthy. So if your life was very systematic and very regulated, you didn't have to make decisions for yourself. You didn't have to deal with, maybe make one decision or another. You have to deal with surprises in your life. That's what kids do. You know, you go outside. You know, you throw a rock. You know where it's going to land, and you kind of get excited about it. Or all these connections are being made by all these unpredictable things that are happening to you in a daily life of a little kid. But if your life, as I said, was you go to stitch these beads onto this jacket and you do this and you do that or whatever, then there's not going to be the development of the neurons. Same thing going though, even if you have in later life get engaged in a coercive relationship or a cult type of a situation, then you're going to be again engaged in sort of repetitive behavior, and then the neurons that become stronger and stronger, as you can see, are the ones that are the more the behaviors that are more difficult to break away from, because that's your natural pathway. So earlier, someone said that they just can't even look another man in the eye. So mentioning that concept of not being able to, that's a neuronal connection that's been strongly reinforced. No wonder here years later it might be difficult for you to be able to change a behavior like that, because it's so ingrained in you. It's just something that's been wired in you in that way, if that makes sense. So a lot of the behavior that we find people engaging in makes perfect sense when you really understand maybe some of the things that are going on with our body. Are you guys kind of getting this? So, all right, I think that's all I'm going to say about that. That's an exciting slide. All right. Oh, now you can't hang on your hats. This one's exciting. Okay, I spent days on this one. Okay, so, all right. So this is what happens. Okay, ready? Okay, first, there's like this kind of stress. Boom, did you see that? You just can't get this anywhere. So like, there's that kind of stress that occurs, like what maybe some of the things that we've heard described here from someone. That stress comes from the outside, and it goes into the human brain, into a person who's engaged in a coercive relationship or whatever. And you see that? And then it processes through the brain, into the brain, through the brain. Cortisol, that's that chemical that's sort of that fight or flight sort of thing. It's associated. Adrenaline is really, cortisol is part of it. It really plays another factor, but that's too much detail. All right, so cortisol runs through the body. Then it goes to it's just shot through the body. It's like a sprinkler system. It's not just going to one thing, it's all through the body to attack all the different things that have to occur. So it goes to all the systems, and it impacts our inflammatory response. So it causes, when you think about it, like if I have some inflammation in my body, it's going to protect my internal organs. If we think about it, this cortisol, remember, it's keeping us safe from the saber-tooth tiger. But now, here we are, it's keeping us safe from towing lawnmowers or somebody like that that's coercing us in our life. So, that's impacting us and causing that inflammatory response to kind of keep our organs safe. And then that impacts our immune system. Oops. And you see there? And then it can cause our immune system to go away, so our illness fighting kind of thing, antibodies and stuff go away. But then that changes and can really adapt gene expression, and we call that epigenetics. Have you ever heard that term, epigenetics? So epi over the gene. So over the gene. So a lot of times we know that because of these things that happen in our environment, our genetic makeup causes this thing called methylation, and then the body ends up, there's things that attach to our genes. We used to think that those things were not passed on to our children, but actually they are. So when we think about, ancestors of Holocaust survivors, or ancestors of slavery, or ancestors of trauma, generational trauma, that we know that people are more likely to experience some anxiety or depression or issues because the genes have been altered, and the study of this is called epigenetics. So someone earlier was talking about your children, like why are my children, how are they behaving this way, or what's going on with them? Well, gee, there's been a bodily change to them because of the trauma that the parent experienced to no fault of their own. Then that is adapted, and then maybe become on a part of the behavior that they've experienced as well. It only makes sense. So that's what's going on. So this is all kind of related to this, to the neuroscience and the neurological understanding of us, and why some of this stuff makes sense, why people end up in these situations. But there's hope. Okay, so there's hope, and when I think about I love this guy, Phineas Gage. If I ever have a dog, I'm naming him Phineas. So this is what I want to. So have you ever heard of this guy, Phineas Gage? So he's a great guy. So what happened was he was working at a railroad thing back in the mid 1800s, and so they were blowing up rock so they could make a railroad go through. Well, he was supposed to dig a little hole in a rock so he could stick a dynamite in it and blow up the rock. Well, he was using a tamping rod, and there was still gunpowder on the bottom of the tamping rod, and it sparked and shot through his head. And you can see here, this is what happened. Well, do you know what? Phineas Gage got right up, and then he was able to talk again after that. And he was able to kind of function or whatever. What went on in his life, here he is. He went on and lived his life, and he was able to be a stagecoach driver. Who would have thought? Throw a rod through your head. It landed like 80 feet away from or 18 feet away or something, away from where the thing was. And so it's amazing that he was able to survive like that. So to me, this shows what we call the plasticity of the brain, is that there is, the neuronal connections can grow back together, they can grow in a different way, they can rehab in a different way. So all that stuff when I was talking about earlier, those stronger connections that were made, yeah, they're there, but that doesn't mean that it's over. Like, okay, game over, I'm hardwired this way. There's no such thing as hardwiring when we're talking about this stuff. We're talking about that the brain is plastic, it can be evolved, there is hope. So through therapeutic interventions, through yoga, through all the new relationships, and all the things that people have done, we can find a new way. And I think Phineas here is kind of our patron saint for hope, for rebuilding our brains a little bit to make us kind of healthier again. If that makes sense. Okay, so that was about the neuron. Oh, wow, I spent so much time on that. But, don't worry, we'll get on top. So, okay, let's think about the human person as well. All those cells and all that stuff makes up the human person from a kind of a biochemical or mechanical kind of a way. But what other things do we need to think about when we think about the human person, the person? First of all, before I say this, I just want to say that how there's a concept in social work that we talk about the dignity of the human person, human dignity. And I think that's a thing that I know like a lot of professions would hold or would think about. And so, is anybody watching The Crown? It's like I kind of got into this. I thought it was going to be boring, and now I'm like, can't wait to see what's going to happen next. And so, so I think about this and how dignified they all are and how the royalty is. And I think about it, like if we treated every single person like all those people treat that queen, so that's when I think about the word dignity. Sometimes I think about royalty. Those words seem to go together. And if we in social work, and we in our profession believe the idea of the dignity of every human person, just think about it. If we treated everybody with that kind of dignity, how great the world would be. We wouldn't have this stuff going on, these things going on, if we just recognize the dignity of every person, to think of life that way. So sometimes when I think, well, if I pass somebody in the street or somebody cuts me off in traffic, I think, okay, well, if I believe in the dignity of the human person, I should treat that person like they all treat the queen. So I'm going to think about it that way. That's something we all think about. All right. Another thing to think about is this concept of the strengths perspective, is to build on the strengths. So I feel like so many times, how many times have you all heard, what's wrong with that person? Why don't they just leave? What's wrong? Why is that guy acting like that? We kind of get all focused on what the problems are, what's the issue, what's wrong. And I think we get that way a lot of times. But if we started with what's going right, like what's the strength, what's going well. So think about this for a second as a little analogy. So say you were a caseworker and somebody comes to you and says, my child is truant and has a terrible time going to school, getting himself to school each day. Okay, well, all right, what happened last week? Did he go to school last week? He went 2 days. He missed 3 days. He missed 3 days of school. So if I'm looking at the strength perspective here, what of the 5 days last week, which days should I look at and really kind of talk about? The 2 days that he showed up, the 2 days that he went, what worked so well that got you there to be able to make it work that day? But a lot of times I feel like we spend so much time, what went wrong those 3 days? What could happen those days that didn't work getting there? And then we spend all that time going down the rabbit hole thinking about the problems. But if I think about, okay, here's 2 straight things, I'm going to get a little bit better about this. Or what can I do to build on that? So in Debbie's book, there's a story of one of the young women that have left the cult, and then she's freshly out, and the world is just confusing to her. And they're at the movie theater apparently, and during the movie there's a scene of a sex scene or something, and so the girl stands up in the movie and screams out loud like she's an adulterer or something like that. I mean that could have been a little bit embarrassing, I'm sure. It's like I think like they're like sit down, be quiet, whatever. But you know what? I think that's a strength. Good for her. Say what you think. Okay, now, but I think that could have been handled like sit down and shut up, or it could have been handled like, hey, good for you. You're speaking your mind there. Now let's talk about when is best, or how is best, or what's going on there. But not to squash it. There's a strength in that. She had a strong conviction. I wish I had that strong conviction sometimes to stand up and say, hey, this is wrong. When something wrong is going on, that's great. Keep that up. But how can we redirect it? Does that make sense? So I think about this whole concept of what are the strengths that someone, I believe so deeply in something, or I'm so willing to commit to something, or relationships so means so much to me. How can we build on that strength rather than just looking at what do we need to unwind? Let's think about what can we build on that's already around that's helpful. I love that idea. And we can think about the strengths perspective kind of from 2 different angles. From a more resilient angle, which we'll talk about in a second, and then more kind of like being able to cope. And that's important. And I think that when someone leaves a cult, the typical coping strategies are no longer there. So if you think about it, I'm kind of addicted to running. So like I hurt my knee a few years ago, and so I couldn't run. Well, I mean, it was my way of handling problems. I couldn't run. I didn't know what to do with myself. And I felt bad. I felt terrible as meeting people. It was terrible. So think about it. If my entire life was changed or altered in some way, my entire way of doing things was changed, then my coping skills are going to be thrown off too. So what possible coping skills can I bring with me? Can I bring with me from the cult to a daily life that are healthy and helpful, and that will allow me to continue to grow on my strengths? So if I could just make a big plug for the strength perspective, totally fired up about it. Okay, so let me just say a couple of other things. These are actually the principles for trauma treatment. So these are principles for being trauma informed or having an appropriate sort of trauma perspective. But if you checked off every single one of these, and if you think about how we should be, or how we can live, or how we can work with one another, that these are the things that we can do to prevent a cult from occurring, or help someone coming out of one, or to help someone in one and doesn't know what to do. I feel like all these things are really, really kind of cool things to think about. Let me highlight just a couple of them. Okay, trustworthiness. Ms. Goldberg, you talked about this a little bit, the idea of trustworthiness. That when a client comes to us that maybe has been in a cult, they've been told for a long time, hey, trust me, everything's going to be okay, to only have that trust be violated really badly. And so if we think about this, if I am in a relationship or supporting someone who's coming out of a coercive relationship or a coercive control kind of situation, I could say, hey, I would love to earn your trust. How can I do that? Can you help me understand how can I best earn your trust? I would love to do that. Let's take some time to do it. So then you're not coming at it like, hey, trust me. They've heard that before. That's an alarm for uh-oh. So this could be a way to say, how can I earn your trust, please? And then that feeds on to the idea of choice. Because in many ways, in a coercive relationship, in a cult, the choice is gone. There's no choice in how you live life. So if we're able to give the steering wheel as much as possible to our friends or colleagues or clients or whoever that are maybe evolving from cults, how can we best do that? So I feel like those are things that are really important. One other thing I think is, I know the word is here, but like this idea of cultural humility is often, I think, sometimes addressed or underspoken of, this idea of like, hey, I live my life a little bit differently because I'm from this culture, or my gender does this, or my race tends this, or whatever. But to think about being respectful for where that person comes from as far as gender, race, sexual orientation, and all these different issues or national origin, all that kind of stuff. All that stuff's really important to think about. Respect when we're engaged with each other. Okay, one other thing to think about from the standpoint of the person is to think about all these things make up just one person, just you or just me. All these different things make up just one person. So think about the complexity of being a person engages all this. The bummer is, I think that when there's coercive control, or when there's, in a cult situation, some of this is pulled apart, or you don't get to have some of this stuff for yourself. Here, you follow this spiritual aspect or whatever, and you don't need to make your own decisions about it. Or, hey, I'm going to pull away the financial control of your own life. Or you don't get to choose where you're going to live. So some of these things are taken away. You're robbed. All these things are robbed. The person is robbed of some of these concepts. So these dimensions of wellness are taken away. So I think to be a human person, to be a person, just has all these things. And it's great. We should celebrate all these things. Our emotional life, our social life, our intellectual life, all the different aspects of who we are, and own each of those things and be excited that they're part of who we are. Okay, so let's talk briefly about the human person continuing, and let's reflect for a second about some good key factors of resilience. So maybe in your mind, as I'm kind of listing a couple of these things, you could think, gee, I'm connecting with that one, or oh wow, I should think about that, or wow, I know some people in my life that maybe whatever. So maybe kind of think about some of these as I'm kind of walking through what the concept of resilience is. So, do you know what resilience is? Maybe you've heard that term. I like the analogy that it's like a rubber band. If you took a rubber band and stretched it to the max, but then you let go of it and it would go back to the way that it was. That's kind of where the word resilience, it comes back. You kind of have been stretched to the limit, but then you've been able to kind of come back to and you feel good about where you were. Almost like the concept of talking about the pre-cult personality, and then the cult personality is almost like you've been stretched. Well, then you can go back to that. But you know what? Then I also love what you said to continue this the thing about it's a post-traumatic stress growth or post-traumatic growth. So the idea, I think, I wish there was a better analogy for this rubber band thing, because if you think about it, the rubber band, it's great that it's horrible that it's been stretched, and it's great that it gets to go back. But really, if you've been through all that, shouldn't you be a little stronger or a little better or a little, kind of have something new going on for yourself after you've been through that? It's a growth experience. So maybe we can think about a new analogy. Maybe you guys can think about that. What's a better analogy than just the rubber band is for resilience? Because I think true resilience is that you bounce back, but then become a little bit stronger and more able to cope or whatever because of the difficulties you've been through. So here's some different concepts of resilience. And I look at maybe some of these things as being like mulch. So this is going to be a little silly, but like to think about this. See this picture? Do you guys ever feel like that sometime? Like you go to work and think, am I the only one that's really a leaf or growing here or blooming here? This whole place is kind of dried up around me. I'm feeling kind of dried up here. Well, you know, just a little mulch might help that thing. Like, you know, just some mulch to give that ground a little bit of nourishment, to make you feel stronger, maybe make the plant grow stronger, make you feel better. So I think about resilience. I think about what's the mulch that I need to kind of put in the dirt around me to help me feel stronger, so that I can be a little bit, you know, kind of more resilient as time goes on. So the mulch first is to be active. So this is kind of going back to what I was saying about that brain thing, that engaging in dance, engaging in art, engaging in walking, engaging in yoga, whatever, to kind of get our body going. Because really, the imprint of these traumas or these stressors from the cultic or coercive relationship are held in the body. So the best way to kind of work them out is to be out and get out and work it out a little bit with the use of the body. I think here also, research was done that said that people are happier at their workplace even if they're just able to look out the window and see that there's an outside there. So that means a lot. So being able to be, we are human beings who we were supposed to be out in the earth. You know, that's where we're connected. So no wonder that there's a little bit of happiness that goes along with just being outside and getting some fresh air. So outdoors, moving the body is one big sort of factor or mulch thing that you can do to participate in resilience. Another one is connection. Is the importance of connection. So I think I'm going to talk a little bit more about this just in a little bit, but how important relationships are for us. So when you think about coercive control, I feel like it's almost like having an eating disorder. You know, like when you have an eating disorder, the problem becomes, truly the problem isn't what you're eating, but the big factor in the difficulty of your life is this necessary thing. We have to have food. But then when you have an eating disorder, then the food becomes problematic. So I feel like the same thing with cults, that we have to have relationships. We are not built to live in a cave by ourselves. We are social people. We're communal people. So therefore, then the coercive relationship or the coercive control or the cult that we've been engaged in, which is the relationship, it's almost like food to us, but it's become problematic. So that makes it really difficult. Because over here, with treating eating disorders, you're trying to help folks manage the diet and the food so that you can be healthy and engage in a healthy way with food and not have unhealthy patterns or controlling factors with the food. But then the same thing over here with the cult. Relationships are important, nourishing things for us. How do we manage that in a healthy, appropriate way? Does that make sense? So these two essential things can sometimes become problematic. That's my little analogy for that. So I think it's just so important to realize that the connection that we have to have. This is a little sort of a precursor thing, but or what do you call it? A premonition for what's coming up. But the idea of attachment. From the day that we're a little baby, from the day that we first come out, we have this attachment to the caregiver that's supposed to care for us. This helps build our brain. So relationships build our brain. And so if you think about it, if a relationship is damaging for us, it can be destructive to the brain. So that's a big deal. So that whole relational stuff is really important and nourishing to the building of the human person. So finding good friends, finding good relationships, building good community, it's just so important. Okay, then this is really important too. Everybody knows about how mindfulness is really popular these days. You know, that mindfulness, that is so important. And I think, again, kind of reiterating what you all were talking about, the idea of what we call grounding. Like, just to kind of stop. If I find myself in a situation where, I'm stressed out, why did I spend all those years in that cult? Why did I spend those years with that relationship with that person? I'm all stressed out. Oh gosh, I feel like I'm reliving a moment that was terrible from the time that I was there, or whatever. But just to remember, okay, I can feel my feet in my shoes. They feel okay. I can see that's kind of orange or brown or something on the wall there. I'm grounding myself. I'm aware of this sensory input. It jolts you back into where you are now. I'm not sure, not too comfortable. Well, it may not be comfortable, but at least you're thinking a sensory input about where you are at this very moment. hey, what do you think of the color on that wall? Oh, it's a little mustardy. I don't know. I don't know. What do you think of it? And I know it might seem trivial or it might seem odd to redirect the conversation that way, but it can help someone become more grounded and realize where they are and be mindful of where they are now. I'm here and now, not there and then. And that's a big, big thing to keep us resilient as well. All right. And then here's something, I know this sounds funny too when you think about like, and oftentimes in course of relationships, so much is expected of you to give, but then really, that's one of those crazy things. It makes us feel good to be able to give something of ourselves. That's why I feel like there's such strength in this room. Many of you who are thrivers and survivors of coercive relationships and cults and things, that you have become professionals that give back, or become volunteers to give back. Or are helping others by offering books or whatever, to give back to the good. You do it because it's just being human. It's being resilient. That's a resiliency, to use this negative and give it back so that others don't have to have that same experience. Awesome. And then, if you ever think about, like, what's the greatest thing that you can say to someone? Oh, thank you. Doesn't that just feel good? Oh, thank you. You feel filled up or something. Like, rather than asking for more, asking for something, it's a gratitude. It's a gratitude. I think that's a great thing, too. All right, this is the last one for resilience. But just to keep learning, like, what new thing can I do? What new thing can I engage in? Just what new stuff can I kind of get myself going, get my brain focused on, so it start rewiring around some painting or rewiring around a new Coercive game or whatever it is that you do, whatever kind of thing it is. So I feel like that's just kind of a neat thing to just think about. How can I keep challenging myself to grow, to learn, to be a little bit different? My mom is 90, well, she's 91 next month, so she's getting up there. Or she is up there. And so she's got this big thing. She used to do all these things when we were 90. It's not like new hobbies are coming down the pike every day. When she started building puzzles, I'm telling you, I'd rather set my head on fire than build a puzzle. I think that's the most horrible torture. It'd be torture. But she loves it. Every day, if I talk to her or whatever, oh, the puzzle, this and that. I don't care a puzzle. But she loves it. So I think that's one of the things that's been resilient for her, is the ability to just build a puzzle, like building new puzzles and kind of getting a new skill or a new activity for herself. I think that's kind of neat. So the same thing can be a challenge for us. Okay, so we've talked about the neuron, we've talked about the person. Now let's talk about the relationship. Oh, we only have a few minutes left, but we can get through it. So the relationship is a key thing as we continue to widen this frame to think about how important the relationship is for us as human beings. So, kind of what I was saying a second ago, the importance of relationships are so key from the very, very beginning. I think that this might be a little weird thing about us as humans. That I think every other animal in the animal kingdom, the babies that come out or hatched or whatever happens to them when they come out, the babies and stuff, they're pretty much mostly ready to go. You think about a little chicken that hatches, she can start going around in the yard. Or you think about like a monkey that's born, they kind of start doing their own thing a little bit. But I think we come out too early. I mean, 9 months sounds like a long time. Some of you women may be ready to kill me and think, what do you mean too early? So you think about that. So when a baby comes out, baby can't take care of itself. It desperately needs the parent or someone, a caregiver, to care for the baby. Well, I think that's part of the process, the natural process of having that relationship with someone to help build the architecture of the brain in the attachment process. So you think about it. A little baby that's crying, because they're hungry or tired or whatever babies cry about. You think about it. And then if we, as the caregiver, look at the baby, oh, I'm sorry, yeah, I get it. Oh, I'm sorry. Or if the baby's giggling and goo-gooing, and you're smiling and giggling and goo-gooing back, that baby you're in tune with the baby when you giggle and goo-goo when they're happy. But if you're giggling and goo-gooing when they're sad, that doesn't add up. But you think about it, if you kind of say, yeah, to a baby when they're sad, the baby inside is thinking in their own baby language, oh, wow, they get me. I feel good, they get me. And I think that's the attunement that we're looking for in relationships, is that somebody gets me. And think about it from the beginning. And from the early days of your life, if somebody's not getting you, if they're sending messages that they don't care about your emotions or they don't care where you stand or whatever, that's disrupting, and it's disruptive to the development of the brain. So that's an important thing to think about. So think about this. As we develop through our life, we kind of have these attachment styles that we sort of do. Just all of us develop differently, and some are good, some are helpful, some are maybe not as helpful. But they're kind of built on two different axes. One being proximity seeking. Low proximity seeking, meaning that you're not really out to be able, that maybe you're just not naturally real drawn to being with people a lot. Maybe you might be more introverted or more, maybe more kind of like content with being with yourself a little bit more than that. High proximity seeking is that you're at a party every night and you're always talking to people and you're always on the phone and all that kind of stuff. And then everything in between. Then anxiety of abandonment, the fear of abandonment. Low anxiety means that that just doesn't bother you. If someone left you, it would be painful and hurtful or whatever, but you wouldn't fall apart. Whereas high anxiety of abandonment is that you constantly live in fear that people are going to leave you behind or that you're going to be dropped or something like that. So you're doing everything you can to prevent that. So you can kind of see how that fits within those different quadrants by the different Peanuts characters. So you can kind of see there, Schriver, pretty dismissing. Lucy can give him all the attention that he wants and he just doesn't care whether Lucy plays piano. That's just one way of being an attachment style there. Charlie Brown, I'd be fearful too if somebody pulled the football away from me all the time, like he just had to deal with. And then you think about preoccupied, and like Lucy there, just always high proximity seeking and then afraid of being abandoned. And then permanent Patty there, the ultimate secure, kind of character. Well, I feel like that sometimes folks who are in like these leaders that are in cults and people that are recruiting or whatever, that they're looking for people that are in that high proximity seeking or maybe more in that high anxiety abandonment kind of thing. That may be who they're looking for. Then that could be where people end up being a little bit more prey. Does that make sense? You can kind of see that. People, this is the deal, that all of us, like was said earlier, all of us hit the low part of our life where there's sadness in our life, or all of us are new to a community. And so maybe wherever we fit in this attachment thing, I think people are going to be looking out to kind of, hey, how can I pounce on this or take advantage of this? Like I said, I'm a runner. One day I was finishing a run at this real popular place in Knoxville where lots of people go running. And I was finishing my run, and if you think about it, like if you've been on a nice long run on a Saturday morning, you're kind of worn down, your defenses may be down, you don't look your best, you're just not at your peak, you're just worn out, kind of all the defenses are down. Well, there were two people standing there, and they were engaging people when they finished their run. This was the place where everybody parked and finished their run. And so there were two people, and they came up to me, and they said, hey, how you doing? And I'm like, fine, how are you? And started inviting me to come to their church. And so I figured, my sister-in-law, she wrote a book, and don't talk to me about this. So I knew what was going on. But they were using an opportunity there to think about like how I was at a weak moment where my defenses were down, and they were going to try to jump on me like that. And then interesting. So okay, I'm not going to do that. Okay, maybe if I could ask you just for a minute, I could do this just for a minute, to ask you to talk to the person next to you just briefly. Maybe if you could reflect on one relationship in your life that helps you develop the capacity for resilience. And maybe another question you could reflect on one relationship in your life where you support another person developing the capacity for resilience. Maybe kind of share a little bit about this with just the person next to you. If you do that just for a second, and then we'll kind of share it with the rest of the group. Talk among yourselves.
I think it would have to be learned because she's the one that pushes me to go out and do more. Like the rubber band. Yeah. Right. I like that analogy. I like the rubber band. If you only think in terms of the strain, then you're missing half the ridge. So who do you help?
I what? Sorry.
You helped to be resilient. The second question
Oh, I
was,
helped to be resilient. It's just I would say Ragan because I was learning very slowly first very
I'm thinking of a couple of clients I have who have adult children who completely rejected them. And these are women, they call me once a month, and they need a session with them. And I just remind them that their daughter and one person's son is doing okay in their life, that they're not everything that you want them to be, but they're not ready to drink the Kool-Aid. And they both stay in the afterwards. After the session, I feel a lot better now. Okay? And it's funny to me because I always say the same thing, but they need to hear me say it.
Okay.
I talk
So that was just a quick little conversation. Did anybody have any kind of insights or realizations of anything you'd like to share from your conversation? Anything at all? Would anybody like to share any results or any insights from the conversation?
I think that we can develop a relationship. We can have a relationship that helps us develop resiliency, either from a negative relationship or a really positive one.
Great point. Thank you, because that's the straight perspective there. Yeah, that we can develop resilience from learning from a relationship that might be difficult for us. Yes.
Kind of building off of that, I can remember years ago one of my coworkers that we just would confide in each other on different things, and I said, I so wish I hadn't been in this particular relationship that was just unhealthy and everything else like that. And she said, but you wouldn't be who you are without that. And it kind of brought me into that perspective. It's like, yeah, even though I've been kicked around, it makes me feel like, but I learned something from that nonetheless, and wanting to kind of help other people in that same situation.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have learned those things had I not been in that.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that's what our life, I guess, is made up of. Some of these negative, difficult things.
Like we just get kicked around and we learn from it.
yeah. And then we learn from the good, we learn from the difficult.
I think my wife and I are both going through the same experience. That shared experience helps us both build each other up.
Oh, cool.
So if you can have someone else with a shared experience, you can help each other.
Amen. I feel like that's kind of what the Goldbergs were saying kind of earlier too, that just how important. We were kind of talking over here a little bit earlier, like, is it helpful to have a group therapy scenario with because I mean, who else is going to understand better? Who else is going to know, better? It's really important.
And you don't feel alone.
You don't feel all alone or isolated, or I'm the only
People
one.
going through a similar thing, and it makes you feel not so much like an oddball.
Right. Not really. Yeah.
Yeah.
So some of these realizations, just how important the sense of community is. Really focus on the resilience, not just the problem. And then how many skills we learn from these difficult relationships. You guys have hit all these things. Friends are a good medicine. I think that's really, really true. Good friends are great medicine. And then hear this whole deal. This is a trauma-informed statement. This here. Not what's wrong with you, but what happened to you. That's so important. I feel like that's an important statement that can lead to recognizing the value that we have, just like in that statement, realizing that you're valuable. I think like if I came in here with a cast on my arm, no one would say to me, "What's wrong with you?" They would say, "What happened to you?" So if I come in after I've had maybe been in a cult for years or been in a coercive relationship, people want to say, "Well, what's wrong with you? Why were you in that?" That's my cast. That's my cat. And I say, "Well, what happened to you? Talk to us about this." And listening to that is so important. Okay, so now here we're coming out. This is our last little frame that we're going to kind of look at real quickly before the end here. Okay, so this is going to be looking at it kind of from a public health sort of standpoint. So public health is like seatbelts. If you like seatbelts are a public health issue. So, okay, I'll use